Here we are, the VT3.
The VT3.
Actually 4. The 4th one is under the table currently. But, ta-da! Here's our little snowflake baby. Look at his onesie. Here, move your hands. It's a snowflake baby. This was made by one of my friends who I met through Instagram. Her shop is Snowflake Notions, and I don't know if she still does, but she does these cute little onesies and mom t-shirts and stuff that say Snowflake Mama and Snowflake Baby. But anyway, here's our little boy, our little snowflake. But so yeah, our last video was, I think I was 40 weeks and very pregnant.
Very pregnant.
And this little stinker took me to 42 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So he did not want to come out. He we got induced at 42 because they said it was at that point medically necessary. I know it. And he was born the next day, so 42 and 1. He was 10 pounds and 4 ounces, which is why I was so large. And why I was so uncomfortable. Yes. It's so funny. But he has just been, the last 11 weeks have been just wonderful. Yeah. And there's been a lot of hard sprinkled in, but overall, we both think that he's been a pretty easy baby. Yeah. For the most part. And he's sleeping really well now, and that's really great. And, we induced at 42 weeks. And it was miserable. The whole process was just an ordeal, and I did not have to have a C-section, but I did end up having to have a blood transfusion, and recovery was forever, and it was miserable. He was healthy the whole entire time. I ended up developing preeclampsia like the last 3 days that we were pregnant, and it was awful. It was so miserable. For about a month, I was like, I'm never having more children. It was that bad. But then he has gotten so cute and so fun now that I'm just like, okay, all the kids, back in on all the kids. So that's really kind of it. That's really all we were going to tell you, is just that he was born. And one thing we did want to mention is that we know that some people go into adoption in general and stuff like adoption, embryo adoption, afraid of having an open adoption. And we just want to say that, like, encourage you to consider that if you are looking into adoption, because there's all the different levels of being open or closed, like not having any contact or having a ton of contact. And we opted for semi-open, I think, at first, and then it kind of just morphed into open, and so we have full contact with his genetic parents. And they're really great people, and we're really glad to know them. And they were so sweet. They sent him a baby shower gift, and it's nice to be able to share things with them if they want to know. And it's nice to know that when he gets older, if he has questions, then we can find out the answers, and he can have a relationship with them if he wants that. And so that's, I think we would encourage you to consider that if you are on the fence. And you can always, with Nightlight at least, I know that you can start at a lower level of communication, and then you can always increase it. So if you're nervous about it, maybe you start with semi-open, which is I think it's like you have contact through the agency. So like you do communicate with each other, but you still don't know each other like completely like friends or anything. But you can send updates and stuff through the agency. Yeah, and then I know that I just told you I was going to talk about something else, and I can't remember what it was.
I think that was it.
That might have been it.
If not, we'll do another video.
Oh, one thing I did want to say was that it's been kind of weird, like that. I think so. Now we would like to have more children eventually. But I was thinking about recently that, like, probably the reason medically anyway that we didn't have genetic children when we originally wanted them was because of the PCOS that I was diagnosed with. And I have been thinking recently that I'm kind of glad that I had it, and I have it, because if I didn't have it and we'd had children when we originally wanted, then we wouldn't have Ryan.
This guy. We wouldn't have this
And
guy.
he is just the drooliest, sparkliest, happiest little boy. And
Yeah.
he just is completely my world. And I just can't imagine being anybody else's mom. And so I hope that that encourages you if you're in the thick of adoption and fear or sadness, that, you know, God does promise you, if you're a Christian, that all things work together for good. And I would definitely count this as a working together for good, that that bad thing is disease because of sin turned into this little boy getting to be my son.
Yeah.
And so I did want to mention that, and I hope that that encourages you to first, if you're not a Christian, to look into being a Christian, read your Bible, read the book of John, to know how to become a Christian. And then if you are already a Christian, then I hope that you can take comfort in that God does work all things together for good. So I hope that this encourages you, that we made it. We did have 3 embryos that did not survive, and that not daily, but weekly, that is a hard thing still. And there's still tears about that, so it's not all completely roses. So if you're in that boat, then I sympathize with you. But there's a lot of joy too. So I hope that this can encourage you. And this probably will be our last video, because we're done.
We did it.
We got him. But if you have questions, always feel free to message me or leave comments on YouTube or message me on Instagram or whatever. And because we love to be advocates and talk about our experience and just be an encouragement to y'all. So thank you so much for following along in our embryo adoption story. And I guess
Ryan, is there anything you want to say? Okay.
Yeah, me too.
That about sums it up right there.
All right. Bye, y'all.